Hello, this is going to be a gaming benchmark video on the GPD Win Max. Well, I still haven't tested a lot of these games yet. I just want to see what kind of FPSs we get, what settings do they run on. I think anything over 30 FPS is playable. And just so you know, this GPD is running on battery. I'm going to do it on battery on better performance. Because, I mean, it's a portable machine, so I don't think it's pertinent to do it plugged in. And also it will have this has a slight undervolt of minus 70 millivolts, which I find really stable and should improve performance just a bit. Okay, let's start with Red Dead Redemption. Hi, so this is a gaming video, benchmark video for the GPD Win Max. It's part of the GPD Win challenge to test as many games as possible. It's also for me because I haven't actually tested that wide of range of games yet. So to talk about the situation, this is going to be on battery. I'm not going to have it plugged in because I don't think that's really pertinent to a portable console experience. And also, there is a slight undervolt of minus 70 millivolts, which should hopefully increase performance. I thought I'd start right away with Red Dead Redemption 2, which I'm sure a lot of people are like quite into, but so this is all on low settings. Everything's on low or off, and unfortunately I'm only getting 17 FPS. In a way it's kind of playable, but I would think anything over 30 is what's needed, even for a single player. If I was shooting right now, if I had any kind of FPS scenario right now, it wouldn't be great. So yeah, I guess Red Dead Redemption 2 can't perform too well. I was expecting that though. I'm surprised they can perform at all, to be honest though, so that's actually quite good. Okay, and the next game is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. I tried to find another modern AAA game, because Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't that new, but yeah, I tried to run Horizon Zero Dawn, but it didn't work. So yeah, you can't run Horizon Zero Dawn in the GPD, unfortunately. Well, at least right now, even with patch 1.05. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, I'm running it at 1280 by 720. And on all settings low, and it's actually fluid enough to play. When I tried to run it at full resolution at 800p, the FPS would dip to 24 FPS, and it wouldn't be smooth enough to actually do anything. It is still dipping actually, but it's not as bad for when it was 800. Would I use GPD to play this game? Probably not. Just because this game's really unforgiving, so you would want to be very careful while playing it. But it almost runs it. Okay, so now we're running Microsoft Flight Simulator, and for some reason the screen keeps flickering black. I'm not sure why.
Out your side windows, you can see we have great visibility over Sedona
But
today.
I mean, I feel like that's a fixable problem. In general though, the FPS is around 25, 26. Keeps dropping. Yeah, it's not playable right now. But the FPS is, yeah, it's nearly there, even at lower settings. But I wouldn't suggest playing this game on the GPD Win. Okay, so now we're running Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I don't play many FPS games, but yeah, I thought I should include one. The FPS seems to be quite good. During more action, we get more around 30 FPS, but right now we're getting around 60. Yeah, I'll skip to some shooting bits so that we can see how that is. Okay, so gameplay right now, I mean it seems quite smooth, everything's on low, with minimal anti-aliasing. Again, it doesn't look amazing, but should be fine. Oh, okay, yeah. This is difficult to play on a GPD, I'm gonna say. Okay. But yeah, it's possible to play an FPS game on here. Infinite Warfare is kind of new. It's not as new as Modern Warfare, but I don't actually have that. I'm not really an FPS gamer, but yeah, it seems fine. Okay, so this is a relatively new game as well. This is actually very new. It's Wasteland III, which is a turn-based strategy. The FPS that I'm getting seems to be quite good. The lowest dips I'm seem to be seeing is like 25 FPS. Normally it's running around 30 or above. It's smooth enough to play, so this is on low settings. It's not on lowest. I feel like it'd be even higher on lowest. So yeah, if you want to use the GPD Win Max to play Wasteland, the new Wasteland game, then yeah, go ahead. Okay, the next game we're going to be testing is Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. This is on low settings, and I'm getting really high FPS. If you can see, it's around 76 FPS, so you can definitely push up the graphics. But what this means is it's definitely playable. Now I don't actually know how to play this using a controller. I'm on the controller scheme, but yeah, it seems doable. And that probably means that you can definitely play in Mountain Blade Warband, which is older. So yeah. Next we have Pillars of Eternity, which is like a tabletop RPG for people into Diablo and games like that. I've got to say it's playable. The FPS, so this is in the lower settings. The FPS is very good. It's around 60. It dips to around 40 in more actionable areas. I found on lower settings. You could probably push up the settings. It's definitely playable, but I would probably play this with an actual mouse, or at least higher sensitivity, because using the actual controls is quite difficult. I can't get any controller support working, so you have to somehow use mouse and keyboard. Okay, next. Next game is Civ VI, which is the newest Civ that's out, at least. Well, it's quite hard to see because of all the colours. So I'm getting around 30 FPS. Again, I mean, nothing's moving right now, so the FPS is going to be low anyway. But I've been through like quite massive battles on two fronts, and it's never slowed down to the point that it's jarring. It's very playable. This is on medium settings with 4 times anti-aliasing. So yeah, definitely playable. I've been playing Civ 6 on this a lot. And in fact, I think that's true for a lot of turn-based games. They're going to be very good to play on GPD, especially because it's portable and there's not much moving going on. Same with Wasteland 3 and other games, maybe Europa Universalis, etc. Okay, next. So this is City Skyline on medium graphics, and we're getting around, if you can see, around 40 FPS right now. I'm probably building the worst roads imaginable. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't really play this game, but I know a lot of people do, and in a way it's kind of like a mix between a turn-based and an RTS, kind of like Europa Universalis, etc. Like, it's not really fast-paced, So you'll definitely be able to play this portably, and that's probably really fun to get into. I think, yeah, we'll leave it there. I'm not good at this game. Okay, so this is Assassin's Creed Origins, and so I'm running at 80% of the resolution scale, and that's something that I'd recommend you should do for any game that's a bit more modern and that allows that, because it lets it run much better. You do give up a lot of graphical fidelity, to be fair, but the FPS I'm getting right now means that at least I can fight this guy whilst it's being relatively smooth. I'm getting around 30 FPS. And with graphics at low, not very low, not yet. So there's definitely a trade-off, but you can actually play Assassin's Creed on the go, which is pretty cool. If Valhalla comes out, I might review that as well. And to be honest, I prefer this over Odyssey. Okay, next. Okay, next game is Borderlands 3, which is quite cartoony anyway. The settings are on very low. Resolution scaling is still actually at 100%, and I'm getting around 45 FPS on average. It can dip to around 30. This is a very cartoony looking game anyway, it's more just about the fun, so I would recommend anything to increase FPS in this case. I feel like I could play it at this FPS. But if I had to, I would use 720p just in case or resolution scaling to make the FPS better. Yeah, so it does dip to 30 as it did just there. But in general it should be fine. Yeah, it's a really fun game. Okay, this is Control with very low settings. The lowest I can do. 800p. So this is a bit more modern. Unfortunately, it doesn't have resolution scaling. As you can see, the FPS we're getting is around 27. It's almost playable, but I feel like if there was any action right now, it wouldn't be. Can increase this by running at 720p, and it might just be playable, but in all honesty, unless you do some other tweaks, like maybe pushing the CPU thermal limit, which I'm not going to do because that would ruin battery life. It's not great for CPU longevity. So this is almost playable. I feel like with a bit more tweaking, you could play a really modern game like Control. Especially now because I think they've got the Altered World DLC, so people are playing this again. Yeah, it's possible. But you need to give up a lot of graphics, and you need to maybe run at 720p. That would be good actually to do for this kind of game. Okay, great. Next. Okay, so the next game is Dark Souls. Dark Souls 3 to be exact. I'm getting around 20 FPS. This is on lower settings with... oh, did not see that. 20 FPS, lower settings with at full resolution. Like, when I can, I'm trying to do 800p, but yeah, I feel like that's really low. I don't feel any lag while playing it. It's actually not that terrible right now, but it's very possible that you would have to use 720p. Unfortunately, I can't find any resolution scaling in this game, but right now it's actually quite playable. Nothing's getting too taxed. The GPU is actually not at 100%, neither is the CPU, so I don't understand why the FPS is so low, and why it feels a bit slow. It may not just be optimized well. Okay, that was bad. Cool. Okay, next. Okay, so it's Fallout 4. For some reason it's windowed. I don't know why. I can't just change it to full screen inside the thing, I need to. But in terms of FPS, it's around 20 to 30. These are on low settings, or low to medium. Well, it would be 800p, so it'd be quite similar to full screen. It seems definitely playable. There's no noticeable lag when you play it. And that's probably the same with actually a lot of these games because they're quite old. Fallout 4 is very old. And that'll be the same with games like Skyrim and Oblivion and Morrowind. All of the Bethesda RPGs should definitely run on GPD Win Max. You might need to degrade the quality a bit. But this isn't the lowest graphics, so it's not too terrible. I could go lower, I could get more FPS if I want it, which I might do. But in general, you can be sure you can play these kind of games on the GPD. Okay, this is Far Cry 5. I'm getting around 27 FPS, if you can see. Well, 25 FPS. It feels smooth. Okay, I can't actually withdraw my gun right now because I'm in a tense situation. Yeah, but it seems playable. The cutscenes ran incredibly well. I think they're just videos. 30 FPS is doable. This is on the lowest settings, and if possible, maybe reducing it to 720 should push out maybe 2 to 5 more FPS. So yeah, that's Far Cry 5. It's somewhat playable, but I mean I would advise against it at the moment, but it's still somewhat playable. Okay, so this is Grid 2, and we're getting very good FPS. Oh, yeah, I was not paying attention. We're getting around 80 FPS right now. And it dips to around 50. Settings are on low. But yeah, old racing games should be fine. Grid isn't old, but it's still quite old, relatively. I don't really follow racing games, so I'm not sure what's really new right now. But yeah, they should run quite well. At least this one does. I don't have Forza Horizon or anything, so I can't actually test that. Okay, so this is actually one of my favourite games. It's Age of Empires 3. And as an old game, I have to use fraps, unfortunately. But as you can see, the FPS is really good. It's on the higher settings. It's not playable with a GPD, in honesty, without a mouse. So you definitely should use a mouse of some kind. It's really difficult to do with these analog control sticks. But yeah, it's definitely playable, and you could easily play a lot of old RTS games, like Age of Empires and Cossacks. A lot of them will work. Okay, carrying on with the Age of Empires theme, this is probably the most recent one. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. And we're getting around 60 FPS, which is really good. I think it's actually capped at 60. Otherwise, I could be going higher. And we're on medium graphics, which means we could definitely push higher graphics. In general, I don't think there's going to be any problems with RTS games. Even more demanding ones, like maybe Battle for Middle-earth, etc. But yeah, I feel like RTS games, this is really good for. Just don't actually use the GPD controls, use like a mouse. A nice mouse. Like this. Yeah. Okay, and this is Shadow of Mordor. No, sorry, Shadow of War, the newer one. And it's running really well. The FPS is over 30. There's no discernible lag. Yeah, it's really playable. which is great. I really do love this series. It's on lower settings and it is on 800p. It originally wanted to run lower than that, but I don't see enough spikes in performance. Yeah, relatively smooth. It doesn't look amazing, but it's definitely playable. Okay, so this is Outer Worlds, which was a relatively recent RPG. We're running at, if you can see, 26, 25 FPS. You can definitely feel a bit of lag. This is at 800p, lower settings. Maybe at 720p it can be better. I'm sure there's other things you can do, you know, like push the TDP by pushing the thermal limit on the CPU, etc. But yeah, actually it's not that bad. Because it's around 30, it's not too terrible. I'm not sure if you'd want to play it on here, but it's actually doable if you're okay with compromises, which is pretty cool. Okay, so this is Tekken 7. I thought I should just include some kind of fighting game. This is at slightly lower than 800p for some reason. I can't change it to 800p. But it's close. And it's on medium graphics. We're getting around 60 FPS. It's a very old game, but I feel like fighting games in general won't be too much of a big deal here. Unless there's like a really modern new one. Yeah, so fighting games should be fine. And yeah, there's no discernible lag. If I was better at this game, I could probably pull off a combo without any problems. Okay, and I think most people know this game. Witcher 3. The FPS is around 40 right now, but I was going around 30 before. So all the settings are on low. It's on 800p. It's probably definitely playable. Because it was playable on the Win 2 with a lot of adjustments. So this, just using basic adjustments in the actual settings without having to go into configurations, it's definitely playable. So that's good. So that's the end of the gaming benchmark video. I feel like hopefully I went through a broad range of genres so that people, you know, no matter what games they're into, have some kind of idea what the GPT can do and if it's right for them. Especially if you're like me and like here, you know, you buy loads of Humble Bundles and you have so many games that you want to start playing and get through. Like, this is a really good device to do that with. So yeah, I would really recommend it. There's a lot of AAA games that you can play with some compromises. The compromises aren't too terrible, and most of the time, older AAA games you can play, and newer games with resolution scaling you can definitely play. If you want to, you could push the thermal limit of the CPU. I don't really want to do that, but you could if you wanted, and that could probably push out more performance. If you can, always go down to 720p. It's not that much of a hit. It's just kind of making the screen more 16:9 by 6:10, but it's not really noticeable how the difference, and it probably helps. It always pushed up like 3 to 5 FPS for me in any game I was playing, which can make all the difference. And I hope this was helpful to everyone. Bye.